I went out for a bike ride with my mates on the Saturday morning.
I remember.
And I got a little bit carried away. What do you mean? I think we did about 100k or something.
It was more than that.
Oh my God, 100k, right? The morning before playing Man United away, and still unbelievable.
If you're not already, don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple. Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Fozcast. Today is brought to you by Manscaped. Brace yourself, winter is coming. What the writers of Game of Thrones didn't want to tell you is that Bran was actually in a wheelchair because he didn't trim his balls with Manscaped. Poor guy thought it was okay to trim his balls with a traditional razor or hair trimmer. Not a good idea, blood everywhere, don't do it. Not sure what you want as a gift for the holidays? Well, Manscaped is the ultimate gift and they're here to change the men's grooming game, and you can get 20% off and free shipping if you use the code, which I've got on my phone here, 1 second.
It's
BFCGK20. It's on screen now. Use that code, 20% discount. Banging.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the Manscaped functions. Now, you'll have to forgive me, Ben, because this is my own personal ones. There might be a stray pube or two on there.
Loads of stray pubes on there. Look at the state of this. That's horrible. They are bouting though, aren't they?
Well, it's waterproof.
Boom.
It's got a little light.
For just in case you want to do it in the dark.
If you want to do it in the dark, in the shower. Okay? Lads, manscaping. You seem like
manscaping in the dark, I know that.
Modern day guys, what are you saying?
I think they need it because they're two of the hairiest guys going. Boaz, you got your belly out early. Can you use it on the bellies, by the way?
You can use it all over.
Boom. Tailor-made for you there, Boaz. We'll get you one, okay?
Yeah, we'll get you one. The other thing you got to remember is you can just be a little bit more free. Gone are the days of Bics. Yeah. You can get this on the old boy. You're not going to nick yourself.
Mate.
The old boy.
Yeah.
I did it the other day. It's a lifesaver, honestly. I'll show you later. I'm sweating. You don't want to have a look down there now, mate. It's horrible and sweaty down there. Manscaped BFCGK20.
Brilliant.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fozcast. Today, we are talking all things goalkeeping. Absolutely minute, tiny detail, and it will all be given to us by two people who know exactly what they're talking about. In front of me, I've got the Aston Villa goalkeeper coach, Big Neil Cutler. Neil, thank you for coming on.
No problem at all.
And just to my right, I've got Boaz Myhill, the West Bromwich Albion Academy goalkeeper coach. Boaz, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me again, mate.
And to my right, as usual, Big Tom Ochoa. How you doing, Tom?
Yep, very well. Thank you, mate. Good
you looking
week.
forward to the goalkeeping podcast?
3 6'6" blokes, what could go wrong?
No, not a lot can go wrong. It'll be brilliant. Detail, like I say, detail tonight is going to be off the charts. Starting with you, Neil. So, quickly give you a bit of a background to what Neil has done in his career. You were a footballer.
Yep.
How many games do you play? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not many. 180, something like that. 190. Around that mark.
Either way, it doesn't matter. I've worked with you as a goalie coach. You know what you're talking about. I've got to say, guys, Cuts, right? Boaz, we've worked with Cuts, haven't we? And Cuts has to be one of the most detailed, what's the word? Like scientific almost. Analytical. Like it is literally, it's incredible to watch. But one of the most biggest top professional goalkeeper coaches I've ever worked with. Absolute top class. And currently at Aston Villa. So how's it going? Come on.
Well, we've had better starts, I know that.
Not the football. I don't care about Villa. Sod Villa. I'm talking about the goalkeepers. This is about goalkeepers tonight.
Yeah, really good.
We're not talking about it broadly. We're talking about the goalkeepers tonight.
Going really
okay.
well. It's going really well.
So Emi Martinez, obviously you're working with at Villa. How's he getting on?
Good, really well. It's been a difficult start for him, really, because coming back from the Copas and winning the Copa America,
which he saved 3 penalties in the final, by the way, didn't he?
Very well, yeah, very well. And then we only really had him for, I think I must have had about 5 or 6 sessions with him before he went into the first game of the season against Watford. Wow. And it's going from that high of the Copa America, of playing really well, and one of the big reasons why they won the trophy, to starting all over again after playing really well the season before. So having the psychological strength to be able to go again was tough for him. So it's like when it's tough. You've got to start the new season again, so you've got to start all over again. Then he's got to build up for the World Cup qualifiers, so he's flying
highs
to
and lows all over the shop. Yeah.
So it's like he's trying to get into a routine at the minute, and it's proven quite difficult, but we'll get there.
How much of an impact does that make, the travel?
Yeah, I think he's coping all right with it, to be fair. And these Premier League players, they're travelling luxury, so it's not too bad. But
time zones must be tricky.
Yeah, jet lag.
I've got to say, I've like, we've all been footballing, we've all travelled around, and we, like you say, travel's good. We get to fly on these lovely planes and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, does it? It's still travelling.
It is.
It kills you. It's so tiring, isn't it?
The worst thing is they get back to us like on a Thursday or a Friday, then we've got a game on a Saturday, and it's like you got literally one session to prepare him for the next Premier League game, which I find ridiculous.
Bonkers, yeah.
Do you know who I
Absolutely
used to be flabbergasted with was Mark Schwarzer. I don't know how he done it, like.
When you think when
he used to play, like they said, Simon Davis, who's at Fulham, who used to play with at Welsh, he was saying he used to take this mad concoction of vitamins and stuff. But still, you imagine doing that and turning up on a Thursday. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's true. Why don't they front load the games? Do you know what I mean? When international breaks come along, so play one game on like the Wednesday following, and then the next one on like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that.
Or at least play it. Was saying, wasn't he, recently?
Or at least play it on a Sunday. They're playing it on a Saturday. It's like, it's craziness. It's like, just give us one more day. Do you know what I mean?
Bonkers. Right.
That just proves how psychologically strong you have to be.
Yeah.
You know, like, you've got to be strong enough to go, well, I'm going to put that behind me. I'm not going to worry about the travel. I'm not going to worry about the jet lag. I'm just going to go and play.
And he's a proper goalie, isn't he?
He's strong enough to do that, yeah.
He's a proper goalie. I think all of us in this room, I don't know about you because you're not a goalkeeper or have a clue about goalkeeping, but in my eyes, proper goalkeeper. I said this to you at the start of the season. We played Villa at one of the first games of the season, and I was just talking to you in the warm-up, weren't I? And I was like, how's he getting on? Blah, blah. And you were telling me that story, about he's had 5 days. He's literally had 5 days to prepare for this game. Yeah. But you said he's top class. Yeah, absolutely top class. So we'll get on to Emi Martinez. We'll get on to a bit more of that in a bit. Boaz, it's very different for your day-to-day job. So you, obviously, as the West Brom Academy goalkeeper coach.
Obviously former player as well.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. Let's touch on your career. Come on, how many games top of your head?
No idea. A few. Like 300 or 400, something like that. I don't know.
300 or 400? Yeah. Blimey, now that's more than a few, mate.
I don't know. But yeah, I was one of them. So there's me, Brunty and Mozza, who've all retired at the same time. Those two have kind of had different retirements to me. I went straight into work, and it's been class for me. Whilst it's not been easy, and you're related to this, COVID's been a nightmare for the world. But in terms of day-to-day work for everyone, it's made everything so much more difficult. But I've kind of got over that now, got through it, and kind of really enjoying the day-to-day football side of things. Whereas we've spent a lot of the last 18 months fixing problems rather than coaching football, if that makes sense. So for me, my day's a lot different. I've worked with Gary Welsh, who Cuts knows. They kind of swapped places really. From Welsh was at Villa, he came here. Cuts went to Villa from West Brom, sorry. So I've kind of, my day revolves around making sure he and they've got what they want, and then making sure that the goalies we've got left get as well looked after as can possibly be, and then sent into the sessions with the younger age groups. Which
one thing I was going to say there is so like you say, you've played 300 or 400 games in your career. Okay, that's a decent career, by the way. That's a seriously decent career for any footballer. How easy is that transition to go from playing to going literally from being a player and then within the matter of weeks just being a goalie coach?
I was ready for it, mate. Like, it's different people. It's not a one rule for everybody. Like, I was ready for it and enjoyed it. And the other thing I've related it to is, remember how much you enjoyed being. You weren't a scholar, where you was a chef, weren't you, at that time? So I was a scholar, and that, as far as my footballing career goes, was probably the most enjoyable time when it's all new. You with the lads, you this, that, the other. It's all completely different. You move away from home. It's almost like that again for me now. I don't know a lot about everything other than the footballing knowledge I've got. Made a load of mistakes doing a load of different stuff, learning all the time. But just, the reason that I want to be a coach, it makes me feel good to help people. That's the long and short of it. So I get what I need for my life.
So what age group goalkeepers are we talking that you work with?
I've started working with, I used to do bits on a Thursday night with the younger goalies. So when I first started, I kind of asked them quite, what do you do? And I was like, well, I wanted to find out what was in the football club. So I did that, started working with the young goalies, found out we got actually quite a lot of good young goalkeepers, so that was a real positive. And then recently, with the help of Cuts, we've managed to employ a goalkeeping coach called Phil Smart, who's come in to kind of drive the underage groups with all the goalkeepers. He's been amazing. He's been a real breath of fresh air in the football club. and someone who is just got an infectious enthusiasm for football. So it's class. I'm really glad that we've got him in. So we've got him to look after all of that now, which means that my role essentially has changed in the last year, really, where I'm kind of closer with Walshy a lot of the time, and then kind of almost bouncing between the under 18s, the under 23s, and kind of assisting with whatever Walshy needs on a day-to-day basis.
So if say the first team need a goalkeeper, need a younger goalkeeper, for example, there might be an injury, someone just can't train that day. Are you the guy that will send basically the senior of the younger goalkeepers over? Yeah,
so we'll kind of say, oh, he's done well, take him, or what are you doing? He's good at this, and this, so it'd be good for your session.
And what's it like working with these young kids? Because obviously being in football yourself, you know what footballers can be like. You know. Yeah,
no, they're not. The thing is now with academies, like the academy now isn't like what the academy was like when I was a player. We kind of got moulded, whereas now the kids need information so they can mould them. So they can't deal so. They'll ask you a question, and if you give them a quick answer, it's not enough for them. So you need to give them an answer.
They want to find out more,
and they
want to see data. They want to see.
Not only do they want it, they can't not. They can't. Wow. You can't. They can't ask you a question and you say, "Oh, I'll tell you later," or "We'll speak about it later." They need kind of closure on stuff, and it's really interesting because I wasn't like that. I would be like, "Oh, well, Paul Barron when I started was my goalie coach," and he'd say, kind of do this and I'd be okay, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So the millennial kind of football player is completely different.
I think this bit here is really interesting because Cuts, I know for a fact when it comes to sort of like the post-mortem after a game, it is massive for you, isn't it? Yeah. Like the debrief after a game and analysing the goalie's performance is huge for you.
And like we just spoke about then, with we've got cameras all on every pitch now. So from all different angles, even the goalkeeping area, all different angles. So you can go back and you can look at it. You can go straight onto Huddle. Young goalies can go straight into Huddle.
Huddle is basically it's like an online platform. You have to have a username and password. Every player basically is on it, where you will then be able to go and see whatever footage you want to see from training, matches, whatever kind of thing.
Or I can finish the training, I can clip things for them, and they can go away and they can discuss it. And like Bo just says then, they want that. They want that information. They're so driven and so wanting to learn.
Is that because it's more competitive at that age group than it used to be? Like say with the academy players,
I think so.
Is it just the demands are higher?
I think also if you got to create that environment. You got to create the environment where they want to learn and they want to come in and want to be the first team goalie. They want to progress through the system and through the ranks. They don't just want to turn up and disappear. They actually want to get better. And it's not just a matter of that's what's happening now. You have to create that. You have to create an environment that brings that on. That really they're coming in and enjoying it and want to learn. Do you know what I mean? If you're just coming in and putting a session on every day, they'll come in and disappear. But like Bo must be putting on a session, or Walsham must be putting on a session for these kids or the first team goalies, and they're coming in enjoying it and they want to get better. Else, what's the point? They're going to disappear.
And what about the competitive element between them? Because I would imagine that in such an environment, the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
How are they with each other?
Can I jump on that as well? That's a very good point because that is one of the biggest things of Cuts' training. I remember we were probably only a year, maybe a bit more at West Brom, but one of his biggest elements was making most things a competition in training. So whether it's just catching, and to be fair, I've always been like this as a goalkeeper anyway, right? No matter what it is that I'm doing, right, I will turn it into a competition in my own head anyway, right? But I love it. It's something I buzz off doing anyway. I'll do it naturally. But whether it's the volleys, do you know? So like guys, let me just paint a picture for you, right? When you go out for a warm up, you might do a little bit of moving about and quick feet and all that kind of stuff. But pretty much the first thing you'll do is volleys, yeah? It's a set of volleys. You might get 10 volleys, right? And in my head, I will be counting every time I catch that clean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, yeah? And then somebody else will go in and I'll be watching them and I'll be counting them, right? And I'll be going, he dropped 2 there, or he didn't catch 2 properly, so I'm winning. And then I will take that into every other single thing that we do.
Just to put in them, why do you think I did that?
Yeah, you could see that.
I did that because I know you like a competition. So I'll know what you like and what you are going to get better from, and I know what to do in training, which is going to make you want to be and keep doing it and keep coming in and keep enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? So it's creating an environment that I know you're going to buy into, because if anything a competition with you, you're going to buy into it because that's you. You naturally enjoy that. Head tennis, two-touch,
mate.
anything that keeps
It
the
was
ball at the back of
intense,
net.
weren't it? Like head tennis. Woof.
But it's competitive.
We had a hell of a night out with all the money that you two put into the kitty as well. After both of you left, so thanks.
So before we go any further then, Ben, can you just explain how you know Cuts and Bo from a career point of view?
Okay, so I first came across, let's start with Neil. I first came across Neil when I first started being a professional footballer. I turned pro at 18, so obviously you know that I was a chef when I left school for 2 years, and then signed pro at Stoke when I was 18. The goalkeeper at the time was Neil Cutler. So how old are you now, Neil?
45.
45. So obviously Neil's a little bit older than me, not much, but you were the senior goalkeeper. I think at the time it was you. There was like Ed De Hoy, Steve Simonson. There were a few at that time, weren't there? So this is where I first got to know you at Stoke, and I've got to admit, and I'm not licking your ass here, Kurtz, right? I used to base my sort of style a little bit, my kind of everything, the way I would try and set and catch the ball or dive or whatever on yours, because I used to watch it and think, he's a similar size to me and he's clean as a whistle as well. He would do it, and I used to think, I like that. So I would always pick you and base it on you. I didn't know if you know that, by the way. That might be the first time I've ever talked. I got a bit emotional.
I think he's had a couple of drinks.
I know, yeah. I love you too, Boaz. I love you too. But yeah, so this is where I first came across you, and then obviously later on our careers,
way.
Our paths crossed again when you became goalie coach at West Brom. Boaz, I know Boaz from West Brom. So West Brom, we were together for best part of 7 years, Bo?
I think so, mate, yeah.
7 years, 7 or 8 years. And I've got to say, mate, honestly, so in goalkeepers, you will have a bit of a pecking order. You'll have a first choice, second choice, all that kind of stuff. And Boaz, and it might sound like I'm being a dickhead here. I'm not, but I don't mean it like this whatsoever. But if ever I could have wished for a second choice goalkeeper, somebody to get behind me and push me, and Boaz was, honestly, mate, he was the best I have had by a million miles.
Sounding board as well when you need him.
Incredible. He'll tell you how it is for sure, but a lot of the time he would just get behind me and go, mate, you're the man. Like the amount of times on a match day especially, it would be, what you worry, you're the man. Like, don't even want, you're the man. And I'd be just thinking, that's lovely, that, cheers, mate. Like, but honestly, like, what a guy, what a frigging guy. But I think that's, we'll come on to this in a minute, relationships within the goalkeepers union, because the goalies union is a massive thing, isn't it? Yeah, and it's so important that, like you say, you set in the way that unit works, whether it be competitive, whether it be a bit more chilled, relaxed, whatever it is, you've got to set it properly and then let the goalkeepers work it out amongst themselves, right?
So is it fair to say that goalkeepers, so you're with young lads, and obviously talking about your coaching sessions with Cuts earlier on, is it like any other business then, where you look at the players mentally and their strengths and say they're a bit of an emotional soul, or they need a kick up the arse, they like the competitive element, so I will 100%. Build that into my business plan, so to speak.
You have to have lots of different sides. As a coach, you've got to have lots of different sides to yourself. So you're a psychologist, you're a tactician, you're a scientist. You've got all these different things that you need in order to be able to mould the goalkeeper into being the best they possibly can be. You've got to have all these little sides and understand all these different sides. You can't just go in and be arrogant. You can't go and say, it's my way, I'm doing it this way, that's how I want it, you have to do it. You've got to know the goalkeeper, you've got to understand the goalkeeper, how he works, you've got to know everything about his family, his life, the way he is, the way he lives, everything, in order to get the best out of that goalkeeper. Because if you don't, and if you cut a corner, you're not going to get the best out of them. So it's a matter of, like I say, being everything, be as much as you can, know as much as you can.
And when you transitioned into coaching, what was the bits that you probably surprised you that you enjoyed the most? Like, Bo, was it like the psychological element with helping people, like you say?
Yeah, exactly. That's it for me. That's in a nutshell for me, is the biggest, my driving force, other than I need a job to work, to pay the bills, etc., etc. The reason why I do this job is exactly that, is that I get great satisfaction from the discussions we're talking about, the little things. You talk about the game reviews, you do a game review one week, the next week they've took it on board, it gives you a real, so at my level, we're about development. I'm not overly bothered about the results. I don't, like, I get told off lots. I'm like, quite a lot of my stuff, Mike, I do the set plays as you did, didn't you? We'll talk about that in a minute. But like, I'm quite happy to let people fail, talk to them about it afterwards, and then watch them, because if I always stand there and tell them, like what he's going to tell you about in a minute, about if we always stand there and say, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, then they don't ever learn. And then when you're not there telling them to do what you want them to do, they can't do it because they've never worked out for themselves. So that's the thing. I like to find ways of helping them to work stuff out for themselves, if that makes sense.
Making mistakes is a big, I guess for
That's
goalkeepers.
it, that is. You've got to imagine he's working with 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old goalkeepers.
You can't afford to do that, but that's the luxury of my job.
It is.
So how important is going on loan as a goalkeeper?
Huge in terms of development. I know for young goalkeepers it's massive, and you went on loan to. I went on loan to quite a few places when I first started out, and it's massive.
Why did you want to go out on loan?
100%.
So why? What was the reason for going out on loan?
I wanted to learn really the feel of winning. You know, like you have to win game. It doesn't matter. You go to the conference, you go Conference North, they want to win. Everybody wants to win. It's that feeling of once you finish the game, you've won a game. There's no better feeling.
Proper, isn't it?
Just getting that emotional side that
they need to win at that level as well, don't they?
Yeah.
They can't afford. Some of them can't afford not to win financially.
Something on the line.
Do you know when you're coming through the academy, and it can be a little bit like, doesn't really matter if you win or lose. Once you get into that on loan and you get into men's football, it matters and it means something. So the sooner you can get them into that environment and playing those games, the better.
So with the young lads at Villa then and at West Brom, are you always pushing to get younger goalies out on loan?
Not necessarily.
Have you got to gauge where they are, what stage they're at, whether they need to learn the basics first, then you can push them.
I like to push them into the first team environment first. I like to get them into our environment from like 17, 18.
If they're good enough.
Yeah. Or even if they're on the brink, you know, and test them what they're like in the environment. Because as soon as you can get them into a first team environment in the Premier League at that level, and they can cope psychologically, it's a massive thing, you know. And then you keep them with us for like 6 months, keep them within the first team environment, see how they progress with that, and then send them out on loan.
Drip feed it in a little bit.
Drip feed it. And I've found they learn so much and they progress so quickly.
Well, if all they need is that little taste, like a training session in there once every few weeks, like you say, give them a little bit, let them see the pace of it, because I think that for the step up from Boaz's level academy to the first team, for me it's pace. It's all about the pace of it. Is every single thing is done much faster, much harder, much quicker.
And that's why, do you know, when we're talking about the volleys at the first and you're saying, I can't be volleys, but volleys are not just volleys. They're hand-eye coordination. They're seeing the ball as quickly as you possibly can, a bit like table tennis. So a volley's not just a volley, it's a hand-eye coordination drill. If you do it all the time, no table tennis where you're playing it, you start playing it, you're like, I can't see it.
Yeah.
You play it a few weeks and all of a sudden you're not only seeing it, but you're seeing the spin, you're counteracting the spin without even thinking about it.
I played 2 weeks ago. I hadn't played since I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's why your ankle's bad, man.
Yeah. And I started, and within 3 games, it comes back
exactly
quick.
Same at goalkeeping. So if I was smashing a ball at your face, right, every day for a week, you would see it so much quicker. Not only would you see it quicker, you'd see the trajectory and you'd move your body in relation to it. And it takes that.
What do you call it? Come on.
Neurological patterns. But that's your shape, your body shape in relation to that ball and in relation to that distance. So basically we're talking about creating scenarios where your brain knows exactly what you're doing for each scenario. So it's like your hand position in relation to ball distance. You know, like your hands will automatically go into that position in relation to that ball distance without thinking about it. And you go through like a conscious phase where things are going through you and you're dropping stuff because you're thinking about it and thinking about it. But if you keep doing it and you keep like repeating it, then all of a sudden it's a subconscious phase. You're not thinking about it and you're naturally doing it.
So this is the psychology of goalkeeping. This is where, when you were saying about the neurological pathways and all that kind of stuff, it's about basically when you go from not really knowing what you're doing and, oh my God, I caught that one. Oh my God, I caught 1 or 2 more than what I normally do. Mm-hmm. To ramming it down their throat day in, day out, but doing it properly as well, like making sure you get your feet in properly. So then that just becomes subconscious. You just start doing it all the time.
When you're creating reactive feet and not dead feet, it's like making sure every session is reactive and not dead. You know, like creating match-specific scenarios. So it feels like a game, and then when you go into the game, it's easier.
Like
so if I was to
purposeful
smash
practice.
a ball at him and he makes that save, but then he goes into a game and it's not as hard. Or he's got bodies in front of him and he's like, I'm having to hold his shape and he's not falling back and he's getting through the back of the ball because we've done it so many times through bodies, around bodies, over bodies. When it comes to a game, I can see it. I'm not falling backwards. I'm getting through the back. I'm transferring onto my leading leg. All these little details are huge when it comes to
this is a massive shift from when we were kids and when we used to play
100%.
like back in the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because like we do you remember like there were times where, well, we're at a different stage, but we've had times where you were our goalie coach and me and Boaz have been out the night before and we've had to come in and go, Neil, sorry mate, we can't do much today, like you're gonna need to look after us. And to be fair, you were brilliant, like you would look after us, but like talking way before that, like I weren't trying to think about the psychology I've got. It was just autopilot. Like you did it, and
exactly right.
It was off the cuff, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was so off the cuff.
And that's why I couldn't come in and change you. I have to, and that's what I try and do. I try to work with you.
Old dog, new tricks, that kind of thing.
Out and saying, I'd always say, "What do you think?" And you'd be like, "Oh, what do you think?" You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm not telling you. I'm asking you.
You're looking for information.
Yeah, it's
you're
like
building a picture of him, aren't you?
Exactly.
So when players go out from loan, you said you like to get them involved in the first team. But have you got young lads that go out on loan?
Yeah, we've had a few. We've had a variety since I've been here. A different. We've had Ted Khan at Worcester City. He was a couple of steps down from the conference. We've had Alex Palmer at Plymouth. We've had Josh Griffiths at Lincoln. We've had Alex Palmer at Lincoln, and we've had Josh Griffiths at Cheltenham. So big part of my job, which is why my role changed a little bit, because instead of going on a Saturday with the under-18s, they started sending me to watch the games all the time.
So when they go out on loan, are you kind of like that father where you're going, one, I hope they play well and do well, but about getting involved with the first team and whatnot, how do you feel about them representing the club and the professionalism? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you work on that with players?
Yeah, so that's not necessarily driven by me. In the academy at the beginning of every year, so this is Josh came through the academy. Josh's been with the academy since he was very young. Alex came a little bit later. I think he was 14 or 15 when he came. But the academy's always been at basics of behaviour, of turning up on time, so things like that should really be a given by the time they go out on loan. But the first couple of days before they go in, I'm saying, look, just do this, do that. Like I say, make sure you're always early.
Just the basics, please.
Basic,
polite,
please, frankly.
all that kind of
thank
stuff.
you, all stuff like that. Don't be cheeky to the other players. Just work hard. Kind of try and win over the groups. Probably the wrong way to say it, but just to make sure, like Josh in particular, never has any problem going anywhere. You would Josh, you'd be happy to marry one of your kids. Like,
really,
do you know what I mean?
He could fit in anywhere.
Yeah, he's so for him, it's more the other way. You want him to be a bit more kind of imposing, but with him, you never have any worries about him. Players that one of the things that Josh has done so well over the last couple of years is the big strength he's got is people want to do things for him.
Nice.
Like the defenders want to do things for him.
That's just a personability then, isn't it? That's what a massive skill of his is. He's a personal, and people want to help him out as well. 100%. Yeah.
So there was to take on to how that has helped him in games. There's been times like he's a young goalie. We sent him there because we want him to learn. He's made mistakes. He's played really well, but because of the personality he is, there was never, as I'm sure you've had, I've definitely had, and I don't know if anybody else has, the centre half turning around going, "What are you doing this?" That you never had any of that.
Waving their arms
because he was. And the other one real massive positive for Josh is everybody always says is his temperament as well. Is that he's always the same, whether he's brilliant, whether he's not so good. He comes in the next day, and that's the kind of thing that you spoke about emotional control, haven't you? A lot to me in particular. Yeah. But it's one of those things where you can't buy that. You can try and improve it slightly, if that makes sense, but there for a goalie, that's up there with the things you want, really, and he's got that in abundance.
Do you think goalkeepers are much different to outfield players mentality-wise?
100%.
Yeah?
Without a doubt.
Like what?
Remember, it's a sport within a sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a totally different sport. It's a totally different position, and you have to be... again, we're psychologists, and I learned so much from you when I've known you for a long time, and how you deal with it is fantastic. And
I learned a lot from him, you know.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from him,
and
honestly.
Kate as well.
Yeah, and Kate. Yeah, I learned a lot from him, honestly.
From both of you, yeah. And coming in, imagine I'm going from Walsall, from League One to the Premier League, right? And I come into this environment, probably my first game, Everton away, and getting ready for the game. I'm a bit nervous. I'm like, oh, I'm getting ready. And you're sitting there with a cup of tea, dunking your biscuits, and I'm like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, are we going out? Yeah, I'll come out of it. Yeah. It's like, wow. Do you know what I mean? And learn the psychological side of it. But it is, you have to, the psychological side of it is huge.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It is,
and
isn't
it's far different to outfield players.
I think a goalkeeper, the psychology in goalkeeping is much more important than it is in the outfield players. Don't get me wrong, for the outfield players, I think it's probably actually take that back, scrap what I just said. I think it is the most important thing in sport, full stop, right? You can have a goalkeeper that could be the 10 out of 10 goalkeeper when we're talking about what he can do physically.
Exactly
like
right.
he could be able to dive further than people, kick further, save, catch thing, and he can do all that. But if his head isn't right and it isn't in a good place, that goal, that 10 drops, and I mean rapidly drops,
that's what I'm
doesn't it?
saying. If you get a young goalie, a 17, 18-year-old, and you put him in a first-team environment and he flourishes, you go,
Oh, he might have a
got
bit
a
here.
chance. He's got a chance. You know, if he steps in and he rolls his sleeves up and he steps forward and he concedes because obviously he's seeing the ball late and he's technically not ready yet, tactically not ready yet, but he gives it a good go and he's like, you know, he's got a chance because, you know, hang on a sec, you know, I can deal with it.
So when a goalkeeper, you were talking like world-class goalkeepers here, and like a David De Gea maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where they're at such a level and then their level does drop. As a goalkeeping
Not
coach,
this season, steady on. That's a bit harsh for this season. He's been belting this season.
No, I appreciate that. But you see it, these things happen. And like you said, they're a 10. And then they drop. How do you work with goalkeepers then? How that must be the really hard part of the job.
Because there's always details, there's always reasons why they're dropping. There's always something to work on. There's always a reason why their form is going. Do you know what I mean? It may be psychological, but it also might be technical, tactical. It might be something you need to adjust slightly, you know, which gives them that little...
Kind of like a golf swing, I guess.
Yeah, just adjusting
Just
slightly. It's
something
little
might be off
things.
kilter, yeah.
And once they buy into that, and they buy into that detail, that's what fires them back up
And then
again.
psychologically, if there's not an issue, but if there's some work that needs doing, I guess it comes back to your point of knowing the players.
Knowing the player and knowing what makes them tick and understanding the reasons. And if you know everything about them, you know why. You know what I mean? You know why, and you know how to adjust it, and you know what's happening. It's like Emmy's dad had a heart attack last week, had to fly straight to Argentina, rang me in the middle of the night. My dad's had a heart attack. It's like, oh my God. Drove straight to his house in the morning. You know, what can we do? How can we help you?
Wow.
You know, can I go to Argentina? Yeah, get yourself to Argentina. Obviously spoke to the manager. The manager's top class with anything like that. Get him to Argentina. You know, like as soon as we could get him out there, got him out there.
One less thing for him to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. He's close to his dad. You know, like we want to make sure that he's all right. So sporting directors onto his family or whatever it takes to get him out there.
I think this gets overlooked, doesn't it, sometimes?
Massively.
Huge.
The relationship between I'd say to an extent in academy football, but you have a lot more to look after. I think when you get to that elite level, when you're in that sort of first team environment, you have to do everything you possibly, like you said it yourself earlier, you have to do everything you can possibly do to give that goalkeeper everything, learn about his family, learn about his birthdays, his wife's birthday, all that kind of stuff.
He has to know I'm there. It's not just him going out there. I try and make them feel like we're going out there. Do you know what I mean? Because it's such, you know what it's like, it's such a lonely position where you make a mistake, it's all on you, then you get the pressure. Whereas if you take a bit of that pressure off and say, when I'm talking to him, I'm not saying what you're going to do, so what we're going to do, how we going to change it, how can we affect it, how can we make it better, rather than it being, how are you going to make it better, what are you going to do to make it better? Do you know what I mean? It's like, we're a group, nice. And how can we improve it?
We are. The goalie union is a genuine thing, isn't it, lads? Like it is a genuine thing. Like we obviously spend a lot more time together than the outfield players because we go off separate. We'll do our own training for half an hour, 45 minutes, no matter what it is. But I feel we, as a people, we are slightly different to outfield players. I think we're a lot calmer. I think it might sound a bit dickheadish, but I think we're a bit cleverer. I do. I think
not when you say it like that.
No, we're a bit more cleverer. We're a bit more cleverer, we are.
You know what I mean? I was just dumbing it down for you lot. Yeah. But I do. I think we're a little bit smarter, a little bit more switched on.
So can you three address this? Goalkeepers being mad. Is this a myth?
Dispel it, lads. Come on, dispel it for us.
Oh, what are you saying?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that you can afford to be mad. Implies that you're out of control. You can't afford to be out of control. I think
erratic. Yeah.
No. Let's dispel that straight away.
I think
simple.
You look at a goalkeeper's normally first in, normally one of the last to leave. Has got everything spot on because you have to be.
It's a process.
Controlled. It's a process of having things in the right
I've got a better
order.
word for it than mad. I think you've got to be a big personality, not necessarily vocally, but you've got to be a big personality to shoulder everything.
Broad shoulders.
Yeah.
That comes back to the psychological element, because often people will say, if you're playing, I don't know, advanced part of the pitch and you give away a sloppy pass, often it can get away with it. With goalkeepers, it does tend to result in a goal, doesn't it? Especially at that high level.
And that's going back to, having the young goalkeepers in that environment, in a first team environment. If you can handle that, if you can play through the thirds in a first team environment, do you know what I mean? If you can switch a pass, left foot, right foot, then it's massive, it's huge. You've got, if you can do that early when you're growing up, and you think it's not an issue for me to do that. I can do that. I can handle that, and then you've got a chance.
Can I talk about one thing that do you remember our first goalie coach, Ronnie Sinclair? First goalie coach. So Ronnie was incredible. He was a Stoke goalkeeper coach, but Ronnie, my God, he had the sweetest half volley ever, didn't he? It was in that spot every single time. He was incredible. But I think psychologically he was very switched on, and he was very good, and he would always be giving me little details and little bits of advice and this and that. But the one bit of advice that he always used to say to me was, stop that ball going in the back of the net. And it was dead simple, but no matter what it was, right? Whether, in training sometimes you might spill one, it go through your legs, and you turn around, you can see it dribbling in the net. You might be able to stop it, but you're just pissed off and you just let it go. Yeah. He would fume. He would go, stop that going in the back. You can't just let balls go in the back of the net. No. It can't be a thing where you're happy for it to just go. It's not a thing. So no matter what it is, no matter whether you know it's going in the top corner, you've got no chance of saving it, you have to go for it. You have to give it every single thing you've got. Because desire, exactly that. Because there'll be somebody somewhere going, he hasn't even died for that.
Yeah, exactly right.
He hasn't even died for that. And you have to do it, don't you? Especially in this day and age of social media, technology, cameras everywhere, picking up every single angle. You have to die for it, don't you? And you can
educate the kids with that. You can educate the young goalkeepers about desire. It's a massive, huge thing. We talk about me, and I like to work in detail. First and foremost, you have to keep the ball at the back of the net. You have to have the balls to be able to go, you're not beating me. I'll do everything I can to keep it up.
Let's talk about then, okay, so the most important thing is keeping the ball out the back of the net.
100%.
Not anymore.
Boaz, I'm going to come to you for this specifically, okay? It's said that in this country, well, not even in this country, probably worldwide now, that with goalkeepers, one of the biggest things that they need to be able to do is be good with their feet, to be able to play out from the back. Is that how it is? Is that what you see on a daily basis?
Yeah, a lot of, with the lower down in terms of the youth side of things, it's being able to play certain types of passes, being able to take up certain starting positions, being able to impose yourself with the ball on the game. So to relate this to kind of the kind of international game with the way it's gone, the Premier League game with the way it's gone, like I say, it's not more important. It's very important though now, I would say, that you can't, like I say this all the time, and I say stuff like this, and I don't think I would have played in the Premier League if I started playing now.
Really?
Fact. I don't think I would have.
Just for the fact
but at the same time, until I was old, I played, and I say this all the time at the academy, but basically all of the teams I played in from when I left Villa was the ones at the back, get it to the good ones at the front, and keep it up there. That's it.
Simple game, this, isn't it? It's a simple game, football.
When I was, so the game started to change when I was 33, 34, 35, and then all of a sudden you've got the young lads who have been in the game for 3 or 4 years, had all that coaching, meeting me. I don't know what they're talking about. I can play nice passes, I had decent technique, but they've all, what we do now, gone through patterns of play, hours of technical practice, like teamwork, to use the Man City Academy. I've watched Man City Academies train, and a lot of what the goalies do is stand behind patterns of play for hours. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Getting the ball, passing it, moving it side to side.
Yeah, and like I say, it's a shift in the game. So if you'd have started in 1999 when I started, you needed to make saves that looked like they might be goals.
Keep the ball out of the back of the net.
Yeah. It's not like that anymore.
Do you join in possessions?
A little bit. Not much, a little bit. I'd say... Yeah, a little bit, but I think I'd say most of the goalies now that I see coming up, or they're with the team, they're decent with their feet. Mm-hmm. They're decent with their feet. I've been at clubs, especially when I was younger, probably. But there's goalkeepers that they just wouldn't play nowadays. They wouldn't, because they just kicking it's a problem for them. Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't happen, would it?
It's not
nowadays?
Just being good with your feet, with both feet. It's seeing pictures. Yeah. How quick can you see the pictures? Yeah. How quick can you see the outballs? That's part
Can I give you the best guy I've ever seen at doing it? So Edwin van der Sar, right? So when I was at Man United, right? This is I guarantee you, the biggest reason why I never made it at Man United was that he was so good, right? He was so good.
Calm as well.
It was a joke, right?
Yeah.
We would join in possession, right? And they would play him the ball, and he would have already looked around, so he knows what's around. His touch is incredible. He can pass it incredible. He's calm as you like, right? So he was like an outfield player. So the lads wouldn't even press him because he was bothered.
Yeah.
So
Play around him.
But they would give it to me, mate. It was a hot potato. I was shitting myself. 'Cause I'm thinking, I've got to try and be like him, try and look calm. I'm not good enough to be calm. Like, I have to be as quick as I can.
But why do you think that is?
I just wasn't. I was a
No,
late.
but why do you think
with-
he was so good?
Exactly.
with it,
He's
yeah.
been brought up like
Yeah.
that. He's an outfield player in
Yeah.
disguise. He is. He's an outfield
Yeah,
player in
so
disguise. He's an outfield player with gloves on. He was that good, honestly.
We
It
had
was
Pepe.
frightening.
We had Pepe come in.
Oh my gosh! There you go,
Unbelievable.
Pepe.
Small
Wow.
side of games, he'd just drop it at his feet and just start
Go on,
running
one.
forward with it. Just start running forward with it and then just play around the... Somebody jumps him, just plays around
Still
with
the
it.
best side volley in Premier League history, for sure. Yeah.
So are
Premier
we
League
catching
history.
up then?
What a guy.
Are we catching up then in this country, Bo? In terms of you say like that?
Well, you look at Jordan Pickford,
I think
the
we are,
England
yeah.
goalie. You look at Ramsdale, Sam Johnston.
Yeah.
You look at them. Good
Ramsdale.
footballers.
I saw some
He's the
Ramsdale
most
ones.
improved
Oh
goalkeeper
my gosh.
I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, I agree.
We
Fully
played
agree.
against him a couple of weeks and I couldn't believe the difference.
Yeah.
So confident.
what's that about then? Why all of a sudden?
All of a sudden he's got the players he can play into for start with. You know what I mean? You got players that want the ball.
Don't hide. That's a big thing. Don't hide.
He knows if he wants to hit a side volley, he's got runners over the top. He knows he can play into feet. He's got passes all over the place. And if you've got the confidence to play that pass
and the ability,
and
he's got the ability, by the way.
he's always had the ability, but now
Yeah.
he's got the confidence with the ability to play those passes. And if you've got a coach that wants you to play those passes, that the goalkeeper coach that helps you develop that, then
I think it's basically been a perfect storm for Aaron because he's joined a team where they can play to his strengths as well as he can play to the team's strengths as well. So, like I say, I'm the same as you. I've watched a few of his games recently, and he's side volleying balls like that high. He's doing it. He's like 3 foot off the ground, side volleying in amongst players into people's feet.
let's not get this wrong. He was under unbelievable pressure coming in. They'd be, why are you buying him for like, what was he, 30 million?
30 mil, yeah.
Why are you buying him? He's been relegated 2 seasons on the bounce. What? And he's proven everybody
Some
wrong,
of the
right?
saves as well. The save he
That
made
one
the
at the
other day.
weekend.
Yeah.
That's
So good.
So he does both, doesn't he? He makes unbelievable saves and he's good with the ball.
And
So
he's
that's
good with-
a complete goalkeeper.
We just see what he's like when things aren't quite going right.
For sure, that will come. For sure, it will come. For
It will
sure,
100%
That's
come.
part of the learning process of a goalkeeper, though, isn't it? Like we've been through it, and every other goalkeeper will go through it. You have to have the downs. Peter Cech back in the day, I remember for a period where I don't think they actually dropped him, but he went for a period of about 2 months or 3 months where goals were going in right, left, or centre. But
And it might not be his fault.
Exactly,
But the goals
yeah.
are going in. You're going, hang on, I've not made a save and I've conceded 2 or 3.
that gets in your head a bit, doesn't it?
So is that
as a goalie?
with Aaron Ramsdale? And he's been relegated 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
Goals flying around everywhere. Do you think confidence potentially was low?
I mean, I took Welsh. He was off with COVID when we played Sheffield United last year in the league, right? And he's a West Brom fan. We've met him. He's been in. So he's a young lad at Sheffield United. He wanted to meet Ben, so he came to meet Ben. So I've had a little bit. I spoke to him. So
How old was he at this point?
he would have been 17, 18.
Yeah,
so
nice.
I was kind of.
He's a lovely kid, by the way,
lovely
isn't
kid,
he?
lovely
What a
kid,
guy,
right.
lovely
So
kid.
I'm standing in the tunnel, and he came up, and I was like, "All right, mate. You after Sam?" He was like, "No, I just want to speak to you." I was like, "Oh, sorry, mate. You're all right," kind of thing. And I was like, "How are you?" And he was like, well, "We just won," so he was low, and he was like, "Exactly what you've just said." He was like, "Well, I'm struggling at this, I'm struggling at that, and blah 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 blah," and then exactly this now. So it just goes to show how strong he is, really, because. I've done it. Like I've been relegated before playing in goal, and there's weeks where you don't want to play.
Yeah,
you
for
literally
sure.
don't
I
want to
know.
play.
When it's going bad,
Yeah.
when it's going bad, the difference between being on the front foot and going out and getting that ball and then stepping back.
That's where we come in as well as a goalkeeping coach. It's like, keep stepping forward, keep stepping out your comfort zone, because as soon as you step into that comfort zone, that's when you get caught out. If you keep outside your comfort zone, if you're in a position to go, right, I'm quite comfortable in this position, then you're going to get caught. If you step out that comfort zone by half a step, and you go, right, I'm going to...
I remember you telling me this. I remember you telling me these exact words. Take another half step out.
Yeah, half step.
Take another half step
You
out.
come and got so much.
Come and get
like,
but you're in a position to do it. So
A
whereas
positive position,
before,
positive decision.
exactly. Whereas before you are in a position where it's 50-50, that straight away is doubt for me, and doubt means no to me.
Yeah.
So I will just back off, which means then everybody can drop on top of me more. Whereas if I'm in that position to come out for it, I'm shouting. All I've done is got my eyes on it. I don't care about what's going on there. I'm coming out and getting that ball.
Because if you've got a goalkeeper that wants to come for crosses, but he's taking a negative position. I look a little bit at Pickford. Pickford wants to come for crosses because he's athletic and he's quick, but he takes up kind of a negative position in relation to the ball. And if he stayed half a yard or even a yard further forward, he would come and get so much more because he's brave. And
is coming out for crosses a bit of a dying art, thinking goalkeeping?
Only because of the ball. The ball.
So good, yeah.
The quality of the ball.
How many crosses have you caught this season?
Yeah, not many.
The quality of the ball coming into the box now.
Phenomenal.
It's just set plays, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where
you can't come for them.
Can't come from
They're whipped. They're whipped like with a curl, but at such pace that it's almost driven.
More this season than last season.
I agree.
Amy came for so many crosses last season, and this season hardly any.
Yeah,
he's
true.
had none to take.
So when a lot of fans will say when the person taking a corner hits the first man, like doesn't get it into the box, people will go, he can't even take a corner. Is that because every now and then there'll be a bad one because there's such a skill on getting that delivery you spoke about?
In terms of what? In terms of...
So when they hit...
Because they're trying to nail it, basically. They're trying to nail it into that
every now
position.
and then they'll hit the first man, and all the fans then go...
The higher up you go, the better you've got to do stuff because the players are better, more consistent. They take up exactly what you just said. They take up better starting positions. They read the flight of the ball quicker. So things that you might get goals from in League 2, you definitely won't get. Goalkeepers are catching in the Premier League. Things you might get goals from in League 1, similar. The goalkeeper might punch. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. The little incremental increases or decreases, however you want to look at it, is what makes a Premier League player. I've always said this, people say this all the time, the difference between a Premier League goalie and a League 2 goalie is usually physique and consistency, isn't it? More often than not.
Sure.
And like I say, so that is the more reliable the corner players are. So Brunty was unbelievable for us.
Chris Brunt, wow.
So
the scary. I'm so glad he was on my team for so many years because his corners and free kicks were
consistently on the button.
It is a Tony Pulis wet dream, isn't it? Like to have a guy who can do that on the button every single time, and you got Gareth McCauley and Craig Dawson following it in. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. But Tony Pulis, the first day he got the job, he was away at West Ham. He came running down at half time. I think it was Keith Downing was taking the team, and he threw Keith out of the way.
I remember.
And he was like, Brunty, I've only tried to sign you 5 times. We were all howling. I was like, I wonder why that is, mate. Kind of thing. It's funny, man. But yeah, it's...
sorry, quickly, can we just touch back on Aaron Ramsdale? Because I want you, because you're the details guy, all right? We know he's a details guy, isn't he? I want you to break down the Aaron Ramsdale save from... was it James Maddison? I want you to break it down and explain all the good bits or why it was such a good save.
Well, first of all, you've got to be able to see the ball quick, haven't you? You've got to be able to see the ball quick to start with. Got to be reactive, and he's got so quick onto his leading leg to get the push. And in order to do that, you've got to not trigger. Got to make sure you're not going in the opposite direction. Because as soon as you start to get onto your opposite leg, then you're never going to be able to save it.
The time frame is critical.
Huge, critical. Because remember, you're seeing it when it's going over the wall, aren't you? So you're seeing it late, and then you've got to be able to transfer onto your leading leg and push through the back of the ball. And he's done it so well. So well.
It's a strong hand.
The picture from the side of the goal is a thing of actual
It's a thing of beauty, isn't it? His body's arched.
It's literally going,
that athleticism you need.
Yeah.
And I know that Iñaki, the goalie coach, works a lot on that athleticism, doesn't he?
It's the flexibility as well for me. Because his back is arched backwards, but it's the strength at range as well. Yeah. So when he's got his arm out straight to... That ball's flying, by the way. That ball is whipped like it's almost like he struck it. And he's seen it late, and he's got his arm out full stretch, which is its weakest point. Yeah. It's his weakest point, and he still managed to flick that ball. It was, mate. Like we were all on the way to the game, and we were watching it, and like Twitter was straight away was a buzz, wasn't it? Twitter was like Schmeichel texting the best save I've ever seen. All this kind of stuff.
When you're confident and you're front foot and you're reactive, it's like you see it quicker, don't you? Because you're like, come on then, I'll have a bit.
It's nice, isn't it? It's a great place to be.
That feeling is like.
And he was up rapid. He was up rapid as well. He was, like I say, the flexibility part of it and the athleticism nearly broke his back because he landed like in a ball, didn't he? He was all over the place, but got his wits about him up. He sort of saved the second one, didn't he? Yeah. Rolled across the goal. Incredible, mate. Oh my god! Like I think it takes a goalkeeper to fully appreciate the beauty of that save, don't they? Because that's phenomenal.
It was a goalkeeping form. It's very rare in the press that all weekend they were talking about a goalkeeper.
That save.
Like, well, the whole performance, he was just unbelievable, wasn't
Yeah, he was.
He's really
phenomenal.
good at. I don't know what you think about his spreading and blocking in 1v1 situations as well. He's really, really good at that. A lot of the saves he kind of made in that game like that were overlooked. But
I think so. Let's wind it back. So let's use Aaron as a bit of a case study here. Okay, so Aaron, let's look at his journey that he's had through being a footballer. Okay, so started off at Boaz. We were talking
Sheffield
about.
United.
Started off at Sheffield United as a young kid. Yeah. They sold him then from there to
Bournemouth.
For
he had a variety of
a couple
loans.
$100,000,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I don't know. Reportedly, yeah. At
Exactly,
the time,
yeah. He did have a couple loans, didn't he? Actually, yeah. Just to know lower league teams again, which
Wimbledon was
highlights how important going out on loan is. Because I did an interview of actually, and some of the teams he went to, like I'm talking proper non-league, like proper local non-league teams. Anyway, so he signed for Bournemouth for a couple $100,000. Finally gets into the first team, starts playing. This is where his career kicks off. Starts. Eventually leaves Bournemouth and gets rebought by Sheffield United for 15 mil.
Allegedly, yeah.
How does that work in a football club where surely that can't go down well? That you've let a player go for a couple $100,000 and then within a few years' time you're rebuying him for 15 million quid. That can't be a good thing.
Which turned out to be a good thing, hasn't it?
For
Because they've doubled their money, haven't they? But
oh yeah, actually,
That's
just
the only
killed what I said.
So I was going to say they've seen something in him.
Yeah.
Right, they must know him from the start. They know his character. They know everything what he's all about.
Who, Sheffield United?
Sheffield United know his character.
Yeah, okay.
So they know exactly what they're buying back. Whereas if you buy one from abroad for the same price, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
So they think that Ramsdale's now progressed into a goalkeeper that they think is ready for the Premier League. Whereas you're taking a gamble on 10, 15 million for somebody that you've no idea about. You don't know what they're about. You don't know the personality.
When you're we'll keep talking about this because I love this. It's so interesting to find out exactly how recruitment of a goalkeeper work, and we'll ask about what your input might be when it comes to the crunch and all that kind of stuff. If you're buying a goalkeeper from a different league, from a foreign league that you don't know much about necessarily, is that the biggest worry, do you think, of knowing their temperament?
Your temperament's a huge thing, especially when you're trying to create an environment where you're looking for the right kind of people, because that's huge, isn't it? The right kind of people in a football club is massive. In terms of what you're trying to create and how you're trying to move forward as a group. So in terms of your goal, and especially it's like your goalkeeping group, I don't want an idiot that's not going to help the group, or not going to help the others progress, or be part of the structure of the goalkeeping department.
You don't get many, do you? To be fair, you don't get many bad eggs in goalkeeping, do you?
Many, I wouldn't
you don't, do you?
No.
No, I'm with you. So let's talk about. I want to talk about the recruitment of how football clubs work when it comes to signing a new goalkeeper. Who has the say on who is signing which goalkeeper from where?
It's a sport within a sport.
Exactly
so
right.
In theory, the goalkeeping coach
in theory
has the
the
biggest,
guy who knows the most about it.
That's not always the case.
Yeah.
You've got a sporting director, you've got a set of scouts that go all over the world, and
Will some of them
all
be
the stats.
outfield scouts or some specific goalkeeper scouts?
I don't think many clubs have got specific goalkeeper
That's
scouts.
next level. Yeah,
I think some have. I think the top ones probably
Maybe,
will
yeah.
have.
I think Tony Coton does it for Man United.
Yeah.
I think don't.
Yeah. I think that is going to be the next thing where I think most clubs
for sure.
will.
Yeah, it will. It's
Because
just the
you
tiny
need-
details.
exactly
Everything
right.
we'll get to that point
Exactly
eventually.
right.
So you're saying that the goalkeeper coach doesn't necessarily
Not
have
necessarily.
the be all and end all say.
No, not necessarily.
So
I wouldn't
you
say
will. So say they might bring 4 or 5 players, for example, to you, and they'll go, right, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly right. So we've got a sporting director, and he's really good, by the way, very, very good. He only came in this year, but he's very detailed. He likes to work with stats. So we'll bring and go, right, these are all the stats on these goalkeepers, right? And I'll have my list, and he'll go away and put all the stats together on my list, and we'll come together and we'll have a chat. And I think from dealing with Emmy, and he was very open to my philosophy and the way I work and the way I like my goalkeepers to be. So if you've got a sporting director that's buying into the way you work and your philosophy, then it's a win-win.
It's got to be a win-win.
Why,
But surely, why wouldn't you do it that way anyway?
Because some don't, do they? Because it's like some clubs will say, right, you're the coach, I'm signing the players. I sign the players, you coach them.
Bonkers.
Some clubs deal with that. Some clubs will have that, and obviously that's a recipe for disaster. Because
I've got to say, I think the Emmy Martinez going to Villa last year was a big big shock to me. Massive shock, in fact.
I remember speaking to someone about it at the time as well, and I was like, he just won the FA Cup, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I was like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
Surely he's got to give it one more crack at being first choice, but it's worked out really well for him, hasn't it?
We played Arsenal last game of the season, and
he kept us in the league.
Mate, he was incredible.
That save was one with the cutback, and he's made a save.
He made 4 or 5 in that game, in the first half alone. He was, from the goalkeeper that I've always known Emi Martinez to be, to seeing him against us for Arsenal, it was a chalk and cheese. It was chalk and cheese. It's like, finally he's here. And my God, is he finally here. Unbelievable.
So when you sign in players, when you sign in players then, and you talk about the short lists and players, is it like any other job where you'll go, oh, this player might be at Nottingham Forest, I've got a mate there or a scout here, I'll give them a quick call and get a little bit of a down low on them as a person? Does that thing happen?
Right. Have to get knowledge of as much knowledge. I'll ring as many people as possibly can that know him,
to build up a picture.
Work with him. You're spending 20 million or 19 million pounds of somebody else's money, of the club's money, and if you don't get it right, then
somebody's going to be held accountable.
That's a lot of money, and obviously it's a big thing. You've got to win games. If you're bringing a goalkeeper that's not good enough and you spent 19, 20 million, he's got to play. And if he's not good enough, you're not going to win games. So you've got the pressure of that. So not only are you dealing with the sporting director, the chief exec, but the manager as well, and the staff. So I'm talking to Dean Smith, and Dean will be like, okay, what's he like? What's he got? This, and this. This is how we're going to play. So then he has to fit into that category as well. So you're not just dealing with the sporting director, you're dealing with a lot of people.
A lot of other people.
Look at Chelsea, for example. I don't know who wants to grab this one, but look at Chelsea. How does that work? That goalkeeper,
70 million for Kepa, you mean?
Yeah, and now Mendy's playing.
I've got to say, Mendy's a good goalkeeper. He is a proper goalkeeper. By the way. Like, why didn't they just get him a year and a half ago? Oh my God! Like, he is. I've got to say, you said Ramsdale, one of the most improved goalkeepers. I think he's up there as well. Mendy, what he looks like, he's got absolutely everything, doesn't he? He's cash as you
There's
like.
Some good goalkeepers in the Premier League, isn't there?
There are
really a lot of.
And
very
this goes
good
back to the point I was making before. The Premier League is. I say that I've had loads of conversations with older players, ex-players. You put Premier League years 1994 on, and you look at what it looks like, and then you put it on now, which makes a little bit of a. It's very, very difficult to compare people and footballers from different generations. But going back to taking it back to the evidence, the coaching is that everything's so much more readily available to all of these players all the way up. So they've got so many different kind of bullets to fire at strikers when they've got the ball, or kind of techniques to imply.
So you want to give them everything, and
that's
they
what's
need
happened.
it.
I love that, because that can bring me on to the next thing, which is brilliant. So, detail. Let's talk pre-match. We're talking a day or two before the game. So, who have you got on Saturday? Yes, buzzing. He's like me. He don't got a clue. It's not a day or two before the game yet, so you don't care.
What day? It's Wednesday.
Who have we got? We play tomorrow night.
Oh, do you? Friday night?
We're flying to Southampton tomorrow.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so
I forgot that.
So Southampton Friday night. Okay. When does the prep start with Emmy, for example, of getting to know what Southampton do?
First of all, the start of the week is kind of putting right what we've done wrong in the previous game, with an eye for the next game. So it might be...
Okay, let's flip it. Let's do the debrief then. So who did you play at the weekend?
We got beat by West Ham.
So let's talk about the next day. Will you have the next day off?
Depends when the next game is.
Okay, sure. And then, so say it's the Monday. So you come in, is there a debrief?
Yeah,
a goalkeeping debrief.
A goalkeeping debrief.
Okay, and how does that work then?
That's mainly come in first thing in the morning, and when he's had his breakfast, he'll come in with me and an analyst, and it's very. We'll have a cup of tea. It's not formal, because I would like to have a chat. I want it to be a chat. I don't want it to be you've done that and you've done this and you need to do this and you need to do that. Has to be a discussion. It has to be. What's your thoughts on that? What can we do different there? Like, he's conceded a goal that we think he could do better with. One down to his right, and the detail of literally half a step out of position cost him. Literally half a step. It's gone through bodies, overcovered slightly. If he hadn't have gone half a step, he would have saved it.
Yeah.
Simple, and the detail of that is what we need to work on. And what we have worked on is now loads of stuff through bodies. Replicating it again, putting it on, replicating it so he's comfortable in setting earlier, maybe opening up one side or the other, depending on the foot of the striker, and then making sure he's right in his head of exactly how he's going to be in the next game.
So if that happened to come again in the same game, he's good to go.
He's good to go. So in his head, he's comfortable. So it's like saying, I want you to set earlier. Well, I'm not quite comfortable. Okay, we'll replicate it. We'll do it again through bodies. And I even put the bodies closer to him, so it's harder. So he sees it
less
later. Less reaction time. So he's not going to get that in a game.
So
it's going to be further out.
Let's talk about the video that you're showing him then, okay? Is it literally every single touch that he has, basically?
Yeah.
It's just all clipped up, completely edited, clipped up.
But we'll move forward quickly.
Yeah,
so if nothing happens, we won't talk about it unless he wants to talk about it. So he might go, well, I probably should have played to the fullback there, or I probably should have stepped in and gone higher, or gone over, or gone in. Do you know what I mean? So it's a discussion point. It's there to discuss.
Yeah.
It's not there for somebody to go, you've done this and you've done that, you've done this. The game's not like that anymore. And if he doesn't want to do it, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If he comes to me and go, I don't want to do it, then the discussion will be, why don't you want to do it?
Yeah.
You know?
Obviously. You've got to be honest about
it, haven't you?
Yeah,
why should you know that? Because you know him.
He's never done it, and he's never said, I don't want to do it, but he's got to be there. If he doesn't feel right doing it, then there's got to be another way of learning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
when you came to West Brom, you started doing this, and me and him hated it at first.
Well, I don't know. This is what I was going to say about this. So I have always, one of my many flaws as a football player was, I don't like praise and I don't like negativity. So that was me in a nutshell. Yeah. What I was going to say, do you remember what you did with him, with all the young lads in the room? Yeah. That was class, I thought.
What was that?
We done so, because you're the way you are.
To go through a video. If you'd have done that with me, man, I would have died. Yeah. But
because he never did it with me, but he did it with you. So he had all the young goalies in the room, me, pretty much every goalie at the football club, a couple of times, and it was like exactly what he's just said. But so all the young goalies could learn it as well.
Imagine the young goalies being in a room like with this much experience.
Yeah.
And now and again,
and we just did this, really, didn't we? We just did exactly this with a telly on and talked about a good save, I'm
getting my gloves out of the weekend.
But you couldn't. That's how you couldn't have done that with me, and you couldn't do that with lots of people.
So you've got to know the right kind of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like last season we had like Jed Steer, Tom Heaton.
Wow, experience.
Imagine the discussions you can have with these kind of that much experience, that much, and that being that open. It's like, so we get to a Thursday and we're working on, say, if we're playing Watford strengths. What are those strengths? Like the strengths meeting won't be a meeting of, you got to do this and they're going to do that. It'd be a discussion of, what we're going to do there. What's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on them? He's going to come inside right foot. Where do you need to be in relation? And it's like just a discussion rather than it being, well, they do this and they do that, and you've got to be careful of that. And it's like,
you just got to be aware.
Yeah, and you got to know, like, you didn't want to go through a lot.
Yeah.
So you go, I don't want to see that.
The bike, mate.
Yeah, exactly. I
totally forgot that we did it that time with the young lads. We did it a few times, I think, with the young lads. But it was incredible because imagine being sort of 17, 18, 19 and we were all sat in the front row. So we're sat in the front row. We're in a closed room and there's probably 8-10 people in this room and 8 of them are goalkeepers and we're talking honestly, but that's just gold, isn't it? For a young kid.
That. Like, and I even ask them a question. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm sure we even got them involved and got them to say.
I remember.
I remember.
House kind of
exactly.
Like,
but you need to be open to that. It's got to be. You got to know the person. You've got to know that they're going to be open because they might just like.
And you're getting to get good buy-in then from the group. Then
exactly
that you feel.
That's the environment you want to create. A learning environment where they're going to maximise what they've got.
I think this will be so interesting to so many people. I'm sat here going to think this is.
Mate, they do it on the coaching courses now. So, like, I've done loads of coaching courses lately, and what they do, this is with the FAW, they handpick the candidates, so their candidates teach the course, kind of thing. So what you said about loans, so they asked me because I had loans. Well, I went through the loans, what blah blah, and that's exactly what.
And
that
you'll
is,
be talking about loans and all that kind of stuff
to help all the other candidates. But one of the other candidates was an analysis expert from Man City, another. So they were all experts in their field who all wanted the same, but they'd handpicked all of the candidates to almost deliver the course. Or sections.
It's relative, though, isn't it?
Exactly
you may as well get somebody who's been through that and done it and seen it to talk about it.
You've also got to have the right coaches around you. Like, I'm now running a department of coaches that are coaching the same philosophies. It's like you bringing in like Smarty, who believes in the same things as you.
Nails, you got Nails, of course, yeah. Mark Naylor, big shout out, Naylor. I love you, mate. What a guy. What a guy, isn't he? How good's Mark Naylor? Mark Naylor was the academy goalie coach before Boaz, before you, wasn't he? Yeah. But he was brilliant, wasn't he? Like, and the odd time you couldn't take training, or what, he would cut in, and what a guy, what a guy.
He still answers the phone to me, mate. Every time I ring him, and Mark, what do I do when this happens? He must look at the phone when I ring him, going.
That's why you got to have a discussion, have the same kind of. Listen, I don't want him to be the same as me.
Yeah.
But I want him to understand the philosophy. So we're more or less singing from the same hymn sheet. So when they're coming through into our first team, they're coming through this with the same knowledge and knowing exactly what it takes to go and play in that first team.
I want to just talk while we're on detail, because I'm sure people find this so fascinating. I buzz off talking about it, and I buzz off listening to you talk about it as well. I want to talk about the detail of dissecting a goal, for example.
Okay.
Can you dissect every single goal from a goalkeeper's point of view?
You can always do something different for
everything.
A goal. You can always do something different.
Yeah.
And it's not about saying you've done this wrong and you've done that wrong. There's always a way of going, how can it be different? What can we do different? And it might be that he's triggered his hand slightly. It might be the fact that he's not transferred quick enough. It might be something.
Head position, body position.
Head position, body position might have slightly triggered. Hand position in relation to ball distance might have been off, which meant he's not transferred quick enough. And it might be just that for me, more than him, where I go, right, clocked it, that's what I need to work on now. And he won't even know he's done it wrong, but I'll make sure I've got it in the sessions that then again you're into conscious and we're working on it, and then it goes to subconscious where he probably won't even know. Do you know what I mean? Because I probably won't tell him. You know, when the ball hits the top corner, you go, I've got nothing with it. Oh yeah, but maybe could have done that, but yeah, and passed on it quite quick, because it'd be ridiculous if I say you've got to save that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Balls at the top corner. There's always something you can do different. There's always something. And then when it becomes a bit of a trend, then you know you've got to change it. Do you know what I mean? It becomes like the one-off. It's a one-off. But like I said, there's always something you can do different.
Yeah,
so we're working on it. But if a trend, that's a problem.
A big thing I've learned from you this is there's always, like I said, there's sometimes you're not saving it. It is what it is, yeah. But you can always try and get your body, your head, your hands, your legs, whatever, into an optimal position.
Exactly.
I think that's the word, isn't it? It's optimal.
What's the best, most effective way of keeping the ball
to give you the best chances of, in any situation, being able to make that save.
Right.
And that is the bit there that I think a lot of young goalkeepers need to try and think about a bit more and learn about, is that you're not going to save everything, but you can always get yourself into a position that can be optimal.
What's the quickest, most effective way of transferring your body weight at all times?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that kind of detail, that daily detail of how am I going to transfer quick enough to get through the back of the ball is huge, because there's so much detail that goes into that. Any slight trigger can alter your body weight in order to, you're not going to be able to transfer quick enough. Just slightly go back onto your heels.
Boaz texted me earlier and said we have to do a shot every time that Cut says detail.
Going to be steaming headache tomorrow again.
So here's a question for you then. Well, I've heard everything about goalkeepers so far. Why aren't more goalkeepers captains?
I think it depends on the manager. I think it depends on how he feels, who he wants really leading his team, or whether he thinks that the goalkeeper can affect the team higher up the pitch. I think goalkeepers are natural leaders. Like both, you're big talkers. Like you see, the best thing that came out of your videos when you put
I was going to say that.
On the GoPro and the goal.
Was huge.
Yeah.
And we sat down and showed our goalkeepers the effect that you have on what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Because it's massive.
Yeah.
It's a massive thing.
And how you say it. What you say to different
exactly
people.
Right.
Judging
and I'll
different
say it again,
people.
the detail of your communication is huge. What you say and how you say it at the right time, the right place is huge.
It's so overlooked,
do you think that's
isn't
a dying art now?
It is a dying art, and I've had to coach that into them.
Yeah.
How because you can go, even a small-sided game, you can affect a small-sided game with your voice and have hardly anything to do, because you're organising people, keeping people switched on around you.
Yeah.
But if you're quiet and stepping backwards, you're not affecting anybody, and you're having so much more to do because you're not affecting anybody.
Do you find this, Boaz, with the young kids, that they're not very vocal, not very loud?
Yeah, but the young kids, this is a massive part of the job with the young goalies, is teaching them their job and teaching them everyone else's job, so that they don't feel like an idiot when they're telling people what to do, if that makes sense. So they have to understand confidently everybody else's roles, especially in the back part of the team, the unit, to be able to, especially as a young person they're not confident. A lot of them pretend that they are, they're not. because when they don't feel 100% that what they say in front of their peers is going to be right, they don't do it. So this is
what you said about Josh earlier. Then
Yeah.
I think that sounds to me like it's having the people skills and the personability to be able to say, do it like that. Oh, well done. Keep it like that. All that kind of stuff. But saying it in a certain way where that player doesn't feel like he's being belittled or something.
Exactly right.
That is a massive personal skill, isn't it, to be able to do that?
In anything.
In life.
Like I say, relationships, we do like loads of CPDs at work. Every person that's ever delivered it, the top of the list is relationships, is you with your players, the goalies with the players. And like I say, one of the biggest things, like for Josh in particular, is that people, I said this to him from like the first moment, people will always want to do things for him because of the way he is.
That's incredible, isn't it?
So as a defender then, looking at the defenders, it must be so impactful to have a talker and a good communicator behind you, because there's so many moving parts in a football match that having someone there saying,
a lot of stress and pressure
space,
as well.
You've got time, watch, I don't know, the channel or whatever it is, whatever you goalies talk, but it must be really important as a defender to have confidence.
And it's body language as well. It's huge. Body language is massive. See the way he walks on the pitch, shoulders back. You look like you've got energy. You look like you're going to keep the ball at the back of net. You're not even touching it. You look like you've got a presence. And I talk a lot about stripping well. So you can have a tall goalie that looks small because of his body language and the way he holds himself. But you can have a small goalie that looks huge because
the way he carries
himself. That's a big thing.
I'll tell you what, then that's a question for us then. Is height important in goalkeepers? How important is height in goalkeepers? And what is I'll change the question.
Draw me a picture of a perfect goalie.
What in your opinion is the smallest a professional goalkeeper can be? Let's keep it Premier League.
Let's talk about how athletic they are first.
Okay.
You can't have a non-athletic small goalie, can you?
So you're saying if you're 6 foot, just barely 6 foot, you need to be exceptionally athletic.
So Jordan
springy.
Pickford's 5'11", is he?
About 6 foot. About 6 foot, I'd say.
What is he? Explosive, athletic, and you have
unbelievable with the football.
Yeah,
so you've got like I say, you've got to the whole picture. Your FIFA scores have all got to add up to something massive, haven't they?
I think this is where football has actually changed a little bit, because if you look at some of the foreign goalkeepers, Ter Stegen, people like that, not necessarily the biggest goalkeepers. Even De Gea's 6'1", 6'2". He's not massive. Lloris at Spurs, not massive, but give them a ball at their feet. Oh my God! Like they can do stuff athletically. They can do stuff.
Agile, powerful.
Sorry, I've just thought of something as well, which is freaking amazing. Which is like the next side of goalkeeping, which will come. Okay, we spoke about this in the summer, right? We spoke about this in the summer when we were watching the Euros, right? Ter Stegen, okay, for Germany, for example. Let's say that, or for when he was playing for Barcelona or whatever. Okay, they play him the ball back, right? And he will try and play the pass. It's such a difficult pass, but he'll play the pass where the striker will think he can get it. He'll nibble. Do you know what I mean? He'll nibble and he'll go for it. The pass misses him. They get out because that player's committed. It's a man down. Boom. And it's almost like they started to do that with people like him. Yeah. Because he's so good at passing, and it's like we can use him to eliminate one player here. And they started to do it in the summer, and we were watching thinking they're doing that on purpose. Donnarumma's started doing it for Italy. The same thing. It's a pass where it's just missing that striker, but the player commits himself. He's out of the picture, and boom, they're in. And as soon as that pass is so close to the point where he's out of the picture, they will just go gung ho. Let's go now, bang. Incredible, isn't it?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Incredible.
And when they're playing those low backspin drives, those flat passes, like through the thirds, it's incredible to watch.
Beautiful,
the confidence to do that.
I know. Because you think you shank one of them and it goes too low, and it just gets cut straight out. They're in.
Incredible.
That is the strength that goalkeepers need to have, isn't it?
And I think that's how it's developing now. A lot of those flatter balls are being hit. You know, like trusting your striker's going to get hold of it, or your midfielder or your eight's going to get hold of it for you. But also having the balls to play those passes.
Yeah, it's good, isn't
huge.
it?
Level.
They didn't answer my question. They didn't answer what is the minimum height of Premier League goalkeeper.
Because you changed the question.
No, he didn't know. He didn't answer it.
It's got to have a 6 in it. I would have thought it's got to have a 6.
Got to start with a 6, you reckon? Yeah,
I think so.
So I've got a question for you. When you three watch TV and you watch a football match, and if there isn't a goalkeeper on the panel, which there often isn't, do you get animated? Do you get upset hearing the ex-pros talking about goalkeepers?
Name names, mate. Name names. Come on.
No, what I'm saying is, there's not often a goalkeeper's perspective, and you often hear, the line can't get beat at your near post.
Yeah.
Carragher came into our training ground one day, and him and Gary Neville had been battering Mingale late, and I was like, leave the goalies alone kind of thing. And he turned around and went, you're welcome to come on, mate. I was like, no, I'm rubbish, mate. I'm not coming on Sky talking about goalies. Like, but they're paid, aren't they, to have an opinion. Whether they've got informed an opinion on that as what they have on all the other stuff is up for Robert Green started doing bits, hasn't he? He's come away from it a little bit.
Again, as things evolve, it won't surprise you if they have, like, this is probably not a good analogy, but you got the main news and then you have like the weather. And it's almost like a goalkeeping corner.
They're having refs on there now, aren't they? So they're having refs with opinions.
Yeah.
I think, you either do that or you educate them a little bit better, or they have to buy into a better goalkeeping education, because it's very basic what they're talking about.
Very basic.
And they can actually destroy goalies at times. You know, like so many millions of people watching Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Their opinion carries a lot of weight.
It does. It really does. Then the papers dive on it. Shouldn't be beat there, or he's not played well, or
people are so easily influenced, aren't they, from what they hear, especially when it's
can be easily swayed through the opinion of a pundit.
But that stuff, like say, diving away from the goalkeeping situation here, how well did Gary Neville do with the Super League thing? That was class.
So
he's used. So
that's what I'm saying. They're good. They're very good.
He's incredible.
He will have had a massive sway on all the Premier League clubs going, he's killed us here, we can't do it kind of thing, which was really, really powerful. Which
again, just feeds into what we're saying about how important their voice is. It carries so much weight. What they say, people think is gospel. They do. Whatever they say, they think is gospel.
So it might not be the fact that you have a goalkeeper or goalkeeping coach on the panel, but just to educate them.
Yeah.
Would be better.
Current best goalkeeper in the world, lads. Boaz, come on, you go first.
After the Euros, I love Donnarumma.
It's
a joke.
Well. Yeah,
he's done very, very well.
How old is he? Like
22, 3,
21, something like that.
He's played about 250 league games.
We concurring on Donnarumma at the minute,
I think
the Goalkeepers Union has spoken.
After the summer, that was me. After the summer, I was watching him
and I was
like,
spewing at me, because that's where we want him to be. We want him to be the best goalkeeper in the world. He's just won the Copa America, and he's just got to become more consistent in everything he does. And
how old is Emmy?
29, just gone 29.
Yeah, he's a bit of he was a late bloomer, to be fair to him. Do you know what I mean?
Remember we played it like going back to watching players play games, like we played against them. You can always tell about a goalie, or one of the telltale signs about a goalie in a football stadium is his fans' reaction to him.
Yeah.
And when he was playing I watched him a couple of times when he was playing for Reading, and they loved him. And I wasn't surprised to see what happened to him after that. He played really, really well in the games that I watched, and I just think that he's like you say, he's used the loan system well. He's it's a real good age that as well now. He's in his peak now, I would have thought. He's got good experience. Again, I was flabbergasted when he left Arsenal in the summer.
Can I ask you a question? I don't think he is in his peak because he hasn't played games.
Not consistent.
He hasn't played
that's what he's missed.
His first season last season was his first. It's like being a 23-year-old, 29-year-old.
Yeah.
Because it's his first, so he's got all the ups and downs.
I could imagine he's probably got 200 games maximum.
No, I don't think he's got
150, 100 maybe. Yeah. Incredible. What is the one thing, following on from that question about who's the number one goalkeeper in the world at the minute, what is the one attribute do you think is the most important thing for a goalkeeper? The one thing.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
Is it size?
I think it's desire.
Desire? I love that.
I think it's desire. Desire to improve, desire to keep the ball.
Everything. You can put desire on everything. You can't you?
Just to train well every day. Desire to be the best. I mean, that's why you try and install that in your goalkeepers. Emmy's brilliant to have at the top of that tree.
Yeah, everybody sees
desire to improve, to win games, to keep clean sheets, to be the best, to win the World Cup with Argentina. His desire is getting him everywhere he wants to be. Like getting him in the Argentina team, winning the Copa America.
Nice.
Pure desire, pure wanting.
When Gary Neville was having his rant about Man United, he said the same thing the other day after the game they lost heavily against Liverpool at home. He said that exactly what you've just said there is that no goals mentality doesn't just happen on a Saturday. And it's exactly that, isn't it? It's that you have to be at that level, their level every day. You can't afford not to do it. You might be able to do it for 6 months, but you won't be able to do it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can tell you that firsthand. Like you can have good games with a good level of ability, but you won't be the top goalkeepers without being very, very good. You've done it differently, haven't you, mate? There's a very interesting story with you in terms of you manage your weeks quite well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I get turned on massively by the Saturday. I do. I get turned on massively, and like say, I'm 38 years old now. In the week, my body just friggin' hurts. It does. Like I've had that many operations, knees and all that kind of stuff. But that's where, like you say, I learn to manage my body properly. I won't train sort of couple days maybe in the week early on, but when it gets to Thursday, Friday, I can sense the games coming. Do you know what I mean? I will ramp it up a little bit Thursday, definitely ramped on Friday, and then Saturday, mate, I learn it from you again. I don't even think about the game until the game starts. Honestly, I'll do a bit of work of learning about who I'm playing and what they might do, the problems I might face, like potentially. But the buzz that I get from that 3 o'clock kickoff is, I think, the bit that makes a good goalie a proper goalie. Like,
so how do you manage that psychologically then? How do you, what is going through your head before a game? You say I don't think about it till kickoff. What exactly are you thinking about?
Mate, I'm playing Countdown on my phone. I'm not even joking.
That can't just happen, can it? You've got to nourish that. You've got to work.
Yeah, I've done it wrong.
Get to a certain level of confidence to be able to do that.
I've definitely worked at it, and I've looked at psychology. I've learned psychology. I've had a teacher. I've teach me all that kind of stuff. I think the biggest thing for me is just having done it. I've learnt the mistakes. I've done it so many times. I remember once we played away at Arsenal, Boaz, and I had the worst warm-up you've ever seen in your life, the worst. It was dog shit, right? It was so bad. And we, literally all week in training, we had been a mess in training. We hadn't tried a leg. I think we'd been out once in the week or something. It had been ridiculous.
You two going out?
But it had been horrible, right? The warm-up was brutal. And we're away at Arsenal. We're at the Emirates, for God's sake, And I remember I turned to you and I went, I think we're going to have to start doing it a bit better, mate. We're going to have to work a bit harder. And he looked at me, right? Honestly, I'm not even joking yet. And he went, fuck off, mate. You know what you're doing. The game will kick off. You'll be fine.
I'll tell you what really stuck with me, right? What stuck with me is we were playing Man United away, right? We were playing Manchester United away. And we were training. I think we were playing them on a Sunday, and we were training late on the Saturday, right? And we trained and travelled late. We got to Man United the next day and beat them 1-0, right? You had a world, you were different class. Come in for recovery on a Monday, and these two are giggling with each other. So I'm wondering, what's up? He went, I went out for a bike ride with my mates on the Saturday morning.
I remember.
And I got a little bit carried away. Well, what do you mean? I think we did about 100k or something.
It was more than that.
Oh my God, 100k, right? The morning before playing Man United away, and still unbelievable.
Mate, do you know what, right? This is what I'm saying though, right? I was so stiff, I was so stiff, right? Getting going was just like, oh, this is hurting. This is actually hurting.
Match day took over, didn't it?
But match day took over.
So it's your fault then? It's your fault that he went
I wouldn't
over.
say that.
It wasn't your fault.
I wouldn't say that.
But the
you
game,
need to twist his arm, didn't you?
The game kicked off, and it was what it was. Like, I don't care. Like, this is where I think a lot of people need to get, and a lot of players need to go. When the game kicks off, as long as you are fully at ease and comfortable with who you are, capabilities and all that kind of stuff, what you can do, what you can't do, your limitations, all that kind of stuff, as long as you know that and you're happy to work within those two parameters, match day will take over itself. It will look after itself because you know what you're doing. Like on a training pitch, we smile, don't we? On the training pitch, we smile, we're having a good time. It's autopilot. You just do it. Why then would you get on a pitch and start shitting yourself and getting nervous and thinking stuff? But
that takes time to be able to learn.
It definitely takes time. For sure it takes time.
And get to a certain level of ability and...
I think what you did over a number of years is in your head built out a library of evidence that you could do it for yourself, and then you just went...
But it's totally different. We're talking about a number two, and you said you've been a number two for a long time. Now, we spoke about obviously being your understudy for a long, long time. That is a totally different...
Completely.
You're going to have to go, not playing for, say, weeks or even months, and then having to go and play Arsenal away or... And Man United
that happened
away.
A lot of times as well, to be fair.
And you've not built up that because you've not had the consistency. To be that kind of... Have that kind of mental strength, which you had in abundance, to be able to go and play and go in and play well for 1, 2, 3, 4 games or as many games as it needed to be.
Did you have that mental strength, or was it...
Not always.
When you were on the pitch, did you feel good when you were on the pitch?
I was all... not probably the right... I enjoyed games when they'd finished. I always kind of... I enjoyed... Nerves is the biggest thing that I miss about playing. Standing in the tunnel next to people, waiting to go out, thinking like... all that. That's the biggest thing, probably the only thing that I miss from it. And And that was kind of what got me going. And always just wanting to be my role was to be a part of it, and that was what I enjoyed doing at the end of seasons when I'd played games and we'd done well. I always used to think, because going back to what I said before, I wanted to play Premier League football, and it was, like I say, the opportunities that I were afforded, this was it. So I kind of, and like you always used to look after me a couple of games a year as well, get me a game, and with injuries and stuff over a period of time. You did get injured a couple of times, didn't you?
Yeah,
so I
sure,
managed
yeah.
There were spells when I played games. But yeah, for me, a little bit like what you said, it was the excitement before the game.
The butterflies.
Switched me on.
Yeah.
Because again, going back, I wasn't got analysis for us before games when I started playing was he's good at heading it, he'll shoot from distance. It wasn't the tactical stuff. So we had to figure a lot of it out for ourselves, which ties into what we spoke about before. Whereas the kids now are not as good because they don't have to figure it out for themselves.
It to them, yeah.
They lose a little bit of the doing it for themselves kind of stuff, which is another kind of trade-off.
I think that's society in general as well, isn't
exactly
it?
Right.
It is. That's society in general.
Yeah.
Everything is available. Everything. You can see absolutely frigging everything. And just like it's a mental health thing in general, I think, which is a massive problem because they're exposed to bloody everything nowadays, and it's whether it's right or wrong, it is what it is, isn't it?
But going back, I mean, number 2 is an art form in itself. We've got Jed Steer now, who's a number 2, who's sitting behind Emmy. Emmy's doing really well, but you have to have the right number 2 in that's going to help the group, who's still driven day in, day out, that helps the environment,
Understands
it, still wants to improve, still wants to progress, still wants to be part of the group, and can make sure that when he plays, he's going to do a really good job. So it's an art form in itself.
Yeah.
But you've got to have one that really is at it every day.
Do you think it's important to have a pecking order and everybody knowing their pecking order?
I think it's a massive issue when you don't.
Yeah.
We had 4 goalkeepers who all thought they were number 1.
Wow.
It's a huge issue because you have to have a pecking order.
Can we talk about in training, right? So then if there's a pecking order and you've got your 4 goalkeepers who think they're number 1, what order would the goalkeepers go? So say if you're starting volleys, for example, right? So people need to understand this, okay? When the goalkeepers go out, all right, when the goalkeepers go out and you're starting training with the goalkeepers, the goalie who's first choice goes first. The goalie who's second choice goes second, third, fourth. It is what it is, yeah? That's how it works. Agree?
Not always.
Not always, but I think majority of teams, that's how it works, all right? That's how it works. When you've got 4 goalkeepers who all think they're number 1,
Must be awkward.
how awkward is that?
Very awkward. Very awkward. But if again, we're talking about creating environments. If you create an environment where they're all getting better, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're all feeling like they're improving, even if they're the number 4. If you're giving them that
Little carrot,
and they know they're and you're giving them the time, coming back in the afternoon and you're videoing stuff and giving them clips, going, we're working on this.
They come back in the afternoon?
Well,
how do you manage that then?
Christ.
So if you've got 4 goalies that think they're number 1 and 2 of them aren't even on the bench, how do you manage that?
Because you're doing your bit by being there for them and making them better. If you come into training, tick a box and then they disappear, that's a whole different story. If you're coming in and you're spending your time and energy trying to make them better, they cannot argue with that.
Yeah.
And then the problem is not yours. The problem is the manager. It's the manager's problem then, because I'm doing my job.
You have to be honest.
I'm honest saying, right, you're not playing, but I'm going to try and make you better. I'm still going to give you my energy. I'm not just going to shove you in a corner. I'm going to make you better. I'm going to try my best to make you better. If you're not, if you're the number 1 and I'm sending you clips and we're working hard together and he's just in a corner kicking a ball at a fence, that's totally different, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've given your time and your energy and your detail and all that if there's a problem at home, you're helping, you're giving the same energy as you are to the number 1 as much as you possibly can. Obviously, you're getting towards game day and then your mind has to be on the number 1. That's different, but you've got to be able to, give them as much energy as you can to improve them.
Lads, we're cooking. I'm enjoying this. I've got a few questions. Okay, they're kind of quick fire. They're dead easy. All right. Best young goalkeeper around.
Don't remember it.
Yeah.
He's young.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's one for you then. So, best young talent you've ever seen. So you've clapped your eyes on and gone.
Young goalkeeping talent.
Yeah, young goalkeeping talent where you've seen them and gone, wow, they are going to be elite.
While you're thinking, shall I jump in with my one then? All right.
Go on.
So my one was Jack Butland when I was at Birmingham. So Jack was 18 when I was at Birmingham, and he was already a bit taller than me. He could jump higher than me. He was so professional, so switched on, so turned on, so strong. 18, I thought, wow, like I thought back to when I was 18 and he was infinitely better and above where I was at that age, and I was so impressed with. I think the biggest thing for me is he had all the physical attributes, but he was already a grown man. He would speak to you properly, he'd look you in the eyes, he would talk to you. Brilliant. And I used to just think, wow, mate, you're going to do it.
We didn't talk a lot of football when we don't talk a lot of football, do we?
No.
But I remember even when Europe Blues coming home and saying, "There's this kid," and he's
incredible,
unbelievable, and it was like
incredible.
Yeah.
Come on then. Who we got?
It's different for me, isn't it? No, we're talking about when you've worked with young goalkeepers. I started my coaching career like League Two.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So mine was purely based on League One, League Two, and educating young goalkeepers, that were at that stage. So I never really got to work with the top end until I got in towards the Premier League, straight from League One into working with you in the Premier League. So it's totally different for me. I didn't really get to work with those real top end.
Okay. Bad question then, really. It's a bad question.
Yeah, bad question. I think that was your question, isn't it?
Was it? Boaz?
When I first got involved in the Wales squads, Wayne Hennessy was exactly the same way. Temperament in terms of watching him play games in the away to Russia in front of 50,000. Not bothered in the slightest. He was very, very impressive from a young age. He kind of he missed out, and he was due to get sold to Arsenal at one stage, and I think it's when he injured his knee and kind of it was unfortunate for him, really. But he was, in terms of temperament, being able to play in massive games, I was always very impressed by him. Like
I worked with Sam Johnson, to be fair. I had him on loan at Scunthorpe, and he was about 18, 19, one of his first loans. And you could see then, when they've, like you just said, when they've got that, like they can step into these games and be calm and comfortable.
Yeah, I'm just getting so much that it's not all about the technical, the physical. It's not all about the physical, is it? No. It's about that X factor of just when they walk on the pitch.
I remember coming to watch you. I think you got me a ticket when you played at Man United. Last time I saw you, you think you were playing for Wrexham. I watched you play for Wrexham, and then I hadn't seen you for a while, and I watched you play at Man United. And it was like, I'm sitting in the stand going, oh my God.
How's this happen?
And you looked so comfortable and calm in the environment.
I was shitting myself, mate. I was shitting
But you dealt with it so well, didn't you? Do you know, like, you did?
What they call them, swans, when they're like all chill on top of them, didn't he? I'm going, fuck's sake, oh God.
But to go from where you came from.
Yeah, it's a good rise. It is a good rise. But that was my problem. Like, it was so much of a meteoric rise that I just I skipped everything. And I didn't learn the skills along the way. So I couldn't deal with it. I didn't know how to do it.
Did you? You never had at that young age?
No, nothing. I had
interesting.
nothing.
That's really interesting, actually, when you even think back. Right, goalkeeping heroes, you three. Your goalkeeping heroes.
We're cooking, by the way, lads. We're nearly there. This has been world class. I'm sure everybody has fully enjoyed the details and all the little backstories. Honestly, it's been world class, lads.
Growing up, I used to love Tim Flowers.
Nice.
Because
from down the road.
He held a really, like, we're talking about shape. Yeah. His shape was like really good. His shape in relation to the ball, and he's shot stopping, and he's powerful and energetic, and I used to love watching him play.
I played against him in a reserve team game when he was at Leicester. This is the funniest thing. I was buzzing about this for weeks afterwards. So he was struggling a little bit, and he was teeing the ball up, couldn't kick the ball so much.
He's a bit older. He's older,
yeah. So Steve Staunton's playing for us at centre half, and all of a sudden he goes, squeeze up to the halfway line, he can't kick it. And Tim Flowers shouted down the back to him. He goes, head this, you prick, it's got dog shit on it. It was class, man. I was in the middle, I was about 17, I was crying, laughing down the other end like this. Brilliant. It was good. It was funny.
Boaz, goalkeeping hero.
I used to clean David James's boots when I was an apprentice, and I always used to think, like, you, a little bit like what you said and what you talked about, you tried to mirror stuff. I think it's one of the biggest things. I always tried to do stuff like what he could do.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite do it because physically wasn't
not many
the same,
could, to be fair, mate. Not
but
many could.
I used to watch him, and some days he would not be so clean, but when he was on it, and you watched him, it was literally scary watching some of the things.
He wouldn't get beat, would he?
No.
In his shooting practice, he couldn't beat him.
Yeah, remember you told me that story when I was at Stoke City, Neil? You did. You told me this exact story, and it will always stick in my head because it got in my head that it would make me jealous. Yeah. Honestly, it would make me jealous that you would be buzzing off another goalie, and I would think, I want people to say that about me. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
Wow.
But honestly, it's always stuck in my head that you're saying that exact thing. You should see this from the saves, mate. You can't beat him. We'd do shooting practice. You can't beat him. I was thinking, piss off. I want this. I want this.
And your hero, Ben?
Goalkeeping hero was it was Peter Schmeichel. Always Peter Schmeichel for me. Just I just loved everything about his size, the way he just dominated, came out, took balls, didn't give a shit.
That's not bad either,
Was
is
he at
he?
Villa when he was there?
Dave James.
No,
Schmeichel.
Pete Schmeichel.
No.
So I was there. He signed for Villa when I was my last couple of years. He was there, and I cleaned his boots as well.
Did you?
And this was so you talk about temperament, personality. We let in a goal just before halftime, and I was like kit boy. So I was in the dressing room picking up all the smelly stuff that they took off at halftime, put it in, and he threw John Gregory out of the way, coming through the tunnel to shout at people in the dressing room. And I was literally looking at him going, whoa.
But that doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't.
No
Go in the
chance.
dressing room, there's nobody shouting at each other.
No, it's controlled. It's a lot more controlled. People
it's
sit
so much
down.
more controlled.
They go in a different room. They talk about. They've got to deliver. They've got 10 minutes to deliver precise information, and you
speech
can't.
and that, yeah.
You can't. When you've lost your, like you talk about, goalies are mad. You can't be mad as a manager or a coach anymore because you've got to 10 minutes to tell them exactly what you want them to do in a controlled fashion. And let's say that's gone. Everybody sits down in the dressing room, and all the players kick stuff, and they're like, "Any chance of these Wallies coming in and telling us what to do?" Like, but that is what it is.
yeah.
It's
Changed as
different.
well.
It's
You
different.
can't shout at people anymore, can you? Because
I
they
was
go,
watching some clips of Neil Warnock this week.
Oh, wow.
Exactly right.
Back in the day.
1600 games, by the way, last night. 1600
Wow.
broke the record. That is
Incredible.
outrageous. Neil Warnock, what a guy.
Yeah, incredible.
Wow. Yeah, but some of the stuff he said, oh my God.
But now we're talking about managers creating environments. The right managers create the perfect environment. You know, like to be able to express yourself. The top managers do that. You know, environments where you can flourish and you can be the best you possibly can be.
Yeah.
Top managers do that, and they don't need to go in ranting and raving and.
I think you lose a bit of respect now.
Yeah,
don't you?
not just
you
a
can't
bit,
do it
but
anymore. You
Yeah.
just can't. You just lose, like you say.
People you've lost control. Then, as a
Yeah.
manager, you've lost
It's
control.
your last resort,
People
isn't it?
look at you,
Yeah.
and I always look at people when they shout. He doesn't really know what to say here. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, right. Whereas when people go away, they deliver their message calm. You don't always enjoy waiting for it to come back as a player, but that is what it is now, isn't it? It's not. Whereas the days have gone about people shouting about running harder, and it's more about, well, if you stand here and play this kind of pass,
Yeah,
and it's completely
it is,
different
isn't it?
information.
Tactics, yeah. Brilliant, lads. That was. I knew I was looking forward to this. I was buzzing off it because I knew it was going to be world class, and it delivered. It was really, really good, really insightful. I'm sure everybody at home will agree. Thank you so much for coming in. It's 6 o'clock at night when we started this. It's currently 8 o'clock. You've nailed it, lads. Honestly, you've absolutely nailed it. Thank you. We're going to get a Deliveroo in a minute, all right? We'll hook you up with some food, I promise you. Wagamama's on tap round here, okay? One thing we do before we go, Tomasi, we do Up the Fozcast. Last week, he nearly did a naughty salute. Do not do that again this week.
Inadvertently, right, I'm sitting on my hands and I'll start us off.
Come on.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
There you go. Well done, boys.
Four Fozcasts, that was. Four Fozcasts.
Yeah, no
Normally we get
Fozcast.
some posh people going Fozcast.
Four
From the
Fozcasts.
south. They're from the south.
Brilliant, lads. Well done.
Midlands.
Well done.
Brilliant. Thanks, lads.